I am April Winn-Patrick, and I own Winn Enterprises, LLC. I live in Wichita, Kansas. I've lived in Wichita since 1999, and right now I'm doing brokerage, tenant rep work. I've specialized in retail real estate for the last 20 years of my career. I got into the business working for a developer, doing primarily leasing and sales, and it's really been within the last 4 or 5 years that I've been introduced to the equity marketing exchange world. I frankly, working for a developer and doing property management and leasing, I really kind of had tunnel vision in terms of my career. So I had very limited exposure to this world. And once I left my job working for this developer and went to what I call the dark side of real estate, I've learned so much that there's so many other tools in your toolbox per se to get a transaction done. The marketing looks different. This is equity marketing, and exchange world is much more of a relationship oriented business where you're trying to find out what are the benefits that each party is looking for, and then utilizing a client's portfolio, what they're capable of doing, and trying to get a deal done. Whereas traditional brokerage, you put together a flyer, you put it up on LoopNet, CoStar, all of those types of programs, and you wait for somebody to call you. And brokers have been very successful with that traditional marketing, but there's a lot of people like myself that are really attracted to the story on the property, the story of the owner, the seller, and it's just much more creative and fun, and so much less transaction oriented as it is really trying to help a client get to where they want to be.
It's more interpersonal.
Absolutely. It has to be. There has to be, in any real estate transaction, communication is absolutely paramount and key. And this because you're always having to keep your eye and your ear on what both parties are trying to accomplish, no matter which side you represent. So absolutely.
Why hasn't it caught on? Why is this the biggest meeting we've had and there's only 120 people here?
So here's my take on it, and you're going to talk to other people that have a different twist on it, but a lot of people, unless you grew up in real estate, there's a lot of us that stumbled onto a real estate career, whether we went to work for a developer or we went to work for a brokerage house. We were mentored by somebody and we came into a specialty or a niche per se. And to be really good in commercial real estate, you have to be a hustler. And I think a lot of people have been encouraged to kind of have tunnel vision in their career and just be really good at that one thing. And so I think people have gotten themselves maybe pigeonholed. And until somebody else comes along and says, hey, I got an idea. And you have to be willing to go, okay, I don't understand your idea. Can you explain it to me again? Because some of the stuff, it is complicated. It is much more complicated of a transaction. And I think a lot of people, we have this part of us that we don't want anybody to know what we don't know. And so it can be intimidating if your brain can't wrap itself around multiple components of a transaction. So the traditional listing is much more process. I found a buyer, write the letter of intent, go to contract, make sure all the due diligence is done, and you're done. And on an exchange, there may be multiple things going on within that thing. And so, I think it can be very intimidating for especially maybe a junior broker or people that have just been doing the same thing over and over again and have been successful. There's nothing wrong with traditional, transactions. But there's some of us that we like that challenge, and we like, being able to continue to work with that client and help them solve problems. We're advisors, we're consultants with them. There's transactions where there's psychology involved. It's still very competitive, but there's the openness is really refreshing, because unless you know what the motivations are behind what the seller or buyer are trying to accomplish, you're kind of just taking a stab in the dark And you can feel vulnerable as a broker, and when your broker on the other side is telling you what's going on with his client, and you're able to share what's going on, I mean, within the confines of your fiduciary responsibilities as a broker. But I think it's much more tight knit. I still think it's competitive, but it's a good competition. And because everybody's looking at multiple, there's not just one, really, in the creative world, there's not just one property that may satisfy their client, there may be multiple. And so I think everybody understands, hey, I'm going to put my best foot forward to match our clients up and get a deal done. But at the end of the day, they're talking to other brokers, and that may be a better fit. And so, but a lot of times those things come back around to you too, because people remember what you had, and they may be working with another client where this one doesn't work, but that does. In traditional listing and transactions, you are taught to give as little information as possible, because the more you give, the less leverage you may compromise for your client. And this isn't about my client winning and yours losing, which is kind of the mentality of somewhat of a mentality. It's very underlying in some situations, and it's not always there in every situation. But in this transaction, or in this type of equity and marketing exchange world, it's so much less cutthroat. It's really not about who wins or who loses. It's making the deal it's a win-win deal for all the parties involved. I really love the relationship building within these organizations, and as you know, Asher NC isn't the only one. The people are phenomenal. When I've gone to look at properties in other states, doing transactions with other people in this world, I'm invited to stay at their house. We go have a nice dinner. There may be some entertainment. I mean, it really is. It's not just, I'm going to meet you at the property, show you the property, and okay, sayonara, back to doodah. It's really, people want to get to know you, what makes you tick. There's a lot of knowledge and wisdom in the room of these people that are willing to mentor and give their time. I've had multiple people just say, April, if you ever have a question, you need anything, please give me a call. And they're willing to take your phone call and help you work through a problem-solving situation on a transaction. There may be people out there that are not into this world that are willing to do that, but there are so many more. And a lot of the older gentlemen are coming up to some of us that are, I'm 45 and I've been in the business since 1999, but I still feel like I'm a junior real estate person compared to some of these guys and what they've accomplished. But they said, if we don't teach the exchange world and equity marketing to the younger generation, it will go away. Because it is an art and a science, and you can never, when I got into real estate, Asher, I got into it because I was bored in my previous job, career, you want to call it, and I wanted something dynamic. And I got exactly what I bargained for and then some. And it's really a really exciting, career field. And this whole equity marketing and exchange world has just expanded my mind, my knowledge, and I feel much more confident when I go meet with a client and how to counsel a client and how to get to the root of what they're trying to accomplish. I feel like I'm 10 times the broker I was before.
Do you have a memorable deal that you can talk about?
I would say the one that stands out, and it is fairly recent, it closed in December. I co-listed a multifamily property in Topeka, and it was my first multifamily transaction. And as most people know, multifamily is a very sought after property type right now. And so I have the license in Kansas, and the other broker that I'm working with actually had the client relationship. And so we joined forces. And I knew that there were partnership problems in the beginning of the transaction, but I didn't know how deep that they really were. And the broker that I worked with that had the relationship with the client, I got to see an amazing counselor psychologist, real estate expert. I did everything on my part, but I learned a lot about how this is not just about the transaction. I mean, we were dissolving a partnership that had gone bad, and we needed to handle that professionally and in the best manner so everybody could walk away and feel good about what was accomplished.